Welcome to another episode of I Am Change podcast. My name is Rafiat Akiwande, and for today's episode, we have with us one of Nigeria's most passionate voices on civic engagement and governance accountability, Mukhtar Modibbo Halilu, a governance, transparency, and accountability expert. Mukhtar currently leads Follow the Money, Africa's largest citizen led social accountability movement. His work spans grassroots mobilization, open government advocacy, and policy dialogue across 36 states and 10 African countries. For this particular episode, we take a look at how citizens can help protect Nigeria's democracy at a time when public trust in institutions like INEC is under pressure. Mukhtar shares how young people are reshaping civic participation through technology and data, and what the upcoming INEC leadership transition could mean for electoral credibility, and why citizenship, not apathy, is the real key to change. Whether you're a first time voter, a civil society leader, or simply someone who believes in a better Nigeria, this conversation will challenge you on how you see your role in building a transparent and accountable democracy. Thank you so much for joining me today, Mr. Mokhtar. I have been looking forward to this particular episode, and it is with a lot of happiness in my heart that I'm happy that we're finally doing it. I mean, INEC just got a new change in leadership, and there's a lot of talk about it, but you've worked with grassroots communities across Africa on governance and accountability for a very long time. So I think I want to start by getting to know you a little bit before we dive into the conversation for today. What personal experiences shaped your commitment to transparency and civic engagement?
Thank you for having me. Just to share a bit of experience, for me, I'm coming from a family of five, four girls, and I'm the only boy in my house, and I'm the last born. And I'm coming from a region where it has been ravaged by issue of climate change as well as the Boko Haram issue, that's insecurity and other banditry issues. So I'm coming from the northeastern part of the country. As you are aware, northeastern part of the country sort of has the highest number of out of school girls and boys as well. So it's a thing for me to sort of see change happen, not just in Nigeria, but across the world. And that's why you see civic engagement is something that it's not everybody that does that, but it's something that all of us have to be part of. All of us cannot be in government, and that's why we have some people sort of sent there to represent us. But who keep those people in check is what we do in this part of development of what we're doing. So what drew me is that option of having to see other children not go to school, right? And another thing is, health wise, if you look at the country, you could understand that, we have a lot of issues that has to do with out of pocket expense when it comes to health sector accountability, right? And, health sector preparedness is something that is not really here in this part of the world. And that is the reason why I'm doing that. I've been in and out of hospital as someone that lives with diabetes, so I could understand the issue. So they're personal to me having to have that. And there is nothing we can do without looking about the integrity, the trust, as well as the capacity of our electoral umpire. And that's the reason why whatever we're doing with the follow the money as well as connected development, we have to put in together to see how our elections can be credible, how our elections can be legitimate, and what is the capacity that our election umpire portray. What level of trust do they portray, and what level of confidence are they giving people? And that's the reason why we're doing what we're doing.
I really love how you spoke about that and you connected your personal experiences to why it matters because it's so much important. So if you live in this country, I have to say there's no way something doesn't touch you at some point. Something definitely has to touch you at one point or the other. And I think now I want to kind of delve into, the election and the INEC institution and the transition leadership we are having now, which is what this episode is kind of about. We've just witnessed a new leadership come into INEC. And a lot of people are already skeptical about the institution. Like a lot of Nigerians you would even listen to people on the radio say, "Oh, we don't believe in INEC anymore. We think INEC has failed." But now we have a new leadership coming in, a new INEC chairman appointed already in office. And I want to know from your own perspective, why is this such an important defining moment for our country's democracy?
All right. So first of all, before talking about the leadership, the new leadership in INEC, we all need to understand that what leadership in INEC as an electoral umpire means to people has to do with institutional dependency, right? Independency. Institutional independency is the first thing, right? And then technology should be enhanced is something, innovations around election is something we're doing well, but we need to enhance it, as well as stakeholder engagement, right? Now, stakeholder engagement for me, it's one of the most important things. So INEC will have to have that point of institutional independency, issues of technology enhancement, issues of stakeholder engagement, issues of capacity and integrity, and issues of transparency and consistency. These are the issues that INEC are known for, right? So having to have leadership or transition into this very person, the very person that left, that's Professor Mahmoud, has been one of the longest serving INEC chair, right? And you could see the level of innovations that have come into the commission. I mean, the commission has been really moving from one place to another. One of the things that were really a big milestone in our election in Nigeria has been the IREV, the BVAS, as well as that level of accreditation and what have you. So continuity and transparency is the biggest point of the conversation in that, as well as the stakeholder engagement and that independency. So without the continuity of this particular transition or election, people can always have that level of distrust and what have you. And if you look at what are the major challenges that have been affecting our elections and people have been, talking about, it has always been elections, issues of elections malfunctions. Logistical issues has always been the problem with our election, as well as trust, as well as that belief in the system of election. So having to have new leadership that will come with different innovations. And if you look at when the new INEC chair was being questioned, you could see the level of integrity. He's a law professor, he has been a law lecturer. At some point, all the offices he occupied, he has shown some level of transparent person and level of, he portrayed a big capacity, being a law professor and someone that has been actively involved in election in the country as well as our judicial system. So I think these are things that we all need to look inward and know that, okay, our election need to have that continuity, the transparency in our election, that independency of the election umpire, and as well as other things involved in the election. And I just want you to understand one thing. One of the newest conversation that has been happening in the country has to do with local government autonomy. And our stand as Connected Development has been always, yeah, we want local government autonomy, but we need to also really look at how local government officials are being elected, right? What is the capacity? In fact, how are local government being created? INEC only conduct general elections as well as that of Abuja, right? So if you go back to state and see the electoral umpires we have in different states that do conduct elections for local governments, that's councillors as well as chairpersons of local government, you could see that there are a lot of issues of gap, there are a lot of integrity issues, there are a lot of lack of trust from people and what have you. So these are things that we want to wake up and see changes, right? Having to see INEC supervise the level of the things that these people are doing or what the elections might be. So for me, I think all we need to see behind having a new INEC leadership is continuity and reform so that we could have the balance in that point, as well as political neutrality. It's a thing that has been affecting our election. And then youth and technology. As a young person, I will always want to see how young people are really being involved in that. And then, sometimes we all need to understand that there is the leadership of INEC need to understand that legacy is something that everybody wants to leave, right? Professor Atari Jega will always be in the mind of people because of the kind of legacy and the kind of innovations they have created in the INEC. Professor Mahmoud, Professor Maurice Iwu, and other professors that led the commission have been instrumental to the commission's growth, right? Be it positive or negative. Everybody has to leave a legacy in that. So public confidence is a big thing when it comes to the INEC. So I will say public confidence is even a crossroad for the leadership. So pretty much, I think that's what I can say about the new leadership of the INEC.
I really like that you broke it down. In fact, some questions I probably would have asked you later, you already answered. But I love where you ended it. And I think that's where I want to pick it up from, where you said public confidence is definitely something that INEC has to work on ASAP. And for me, I'm looking at it in sense that you've worked with Follow the Money, you've have to involve a lot of youth and a lot of citizens in wanting to believe in governance and transparency and all of that. If you were to advise the people at the helm of affairs currently now at INEC to instill that public confidence again, what would you say are the first two steps they have to take? Like these two steps, you cannot skip it if you want the public to still believe that you're an independent body.
All right. So first of all, from the question, you could see that the answers has always been there are two major issues in our election cycle. One of the major issues is logistics. Logistical issues have been the problem. And INEC stay almost 5 years to conduct, or 4 years to conduct one election, aside from the pockets of by-elections we have. So for you to install public confidence and public trust and belief, the first thing is we need to address the problem that has been the major problem in our electoral cycle. That is the logistical issue, right? And then citizen and stakeholder engagement is one of the most important things. So if we install that level of confidence, right, from citizen engagement, we will move it. So I told you earlier about the milestone that we've seen in our election from IREF and BVAS. You could see the confidence that technology brought into the election. So if technology is enhanced, stakeholder management is really being followed, logistical issues have been the major issue is being addressed. I think transparency is being in check, stakeholder management, accountability also, and then institutional and staff capacity. So staff capacity is very, very important to the elections that we're doing. Then citizen-centered reforms. Can we maybe conduct a town hall meeting and see what citizens are saying and what have you? These are things that I think if INEC should follow, definitely that confidence will be installed in people, ownership will be given to people, and independency and then confidence among people will really be installed.
Thank you so much. I think that citizen engagement is something that, Follow the Money has been able to do and sustain very well. And for me, I just wanted to know, Follow the Money, you have mobilized thousands of young Nigerians in this country, beyond this country, to be able to sustain that level of citizen management. What lessons have you learned over the years in making sure that citizens are engaged and they are really wanting to involve themselves in making sure that government is transparent and government is accountable?
Yeah, it's not been easy, but I want you to understand that we did something around looking at what are the methodologies we look at to get young people. Now, as Follow the Money, we've been observing election. But how do we observe the election? Now, observing election for us is not about the numbers. It's not about who comes out or who don't or what have you. Observing election for us is just looking at the processes of elections. Elections have processes, and that is what we were monitoring. And what we did, the methodology we used was to have at least one person in each of the polling units. So one person in each of the political ward. We have over 8,000 plus political wards in the country, and then we have 774 local government. So we have 10 people across each of the local government in that 774. And what we want them to do is to cast their vote as well as tell us what they have seen, right? What process have they seen that is not going right? Or what did INEC say they would do and they were not able to do it? So you see, we did not stop anybody from going to vote, but that person was able to send us some level of information around that. And it's a live time thing that we're showing. So the methodology is the fact that all we wanted is not to hinder people from going out to go and vote, but have people observe election within their locality. So if you want to lie about your locality, we will verify, yes. But I mean, because of that giving of ownership, nobody will want to say this has happened when it has not happened. Because obviously, most of the people that are there are your relatives or your neighbors or whatever. So you're not moving to pick any information. So that's one of the methodologies we use. And, moving with young people, every young person has his own idea. So another one of the things we looked at is everybody has his strength, and we, sit on that strength. We're not bringing young people to just fill the space, because a lot of times what people do is to bring young people to say, oh, young people are represented, right? So we did not brought in those young people as we want them. We want them to know that their thing really matters. At the end of every election, one of the things we do is to put out a report. So we do two reports. We do learning reports, what we've learned, as well as the narrative report of what has happened, right? Because for us, now, if you go on www.usabe.org, you could see all the things that have happened, lifetime with time, geolocated to that particular area that it happens. And we do escalate it when it's a security issues that deserve escalation. So who are the ones doing it? It was the young people that are doing it, because we build their capacity and we showed them that their capacity is something that the country needs. Right? So what we are installing is citizenry. We are telling you that this country will not move forward without you being part of the system. And being part of the system does not mean you're left out. No, it means that you are helping the system to get to where it is. So what we always say as a movement is we want to run a race and win the race together so that we change the country. Yeah.
I think one thing I really love that you've spoken about is that spirit of ownership. If a lot of people in this country just live in this country, they don't feel like they're a part of the system. They don't feel that ownership. And I love what you said in terms of how follow the money. You use somebody who would vote in that particular locality, because you have to be. You use a sense of ownership, and the sense of ownership allows you to want to be transparent, wants to make you accountable. You want to put out the right thing there because you want to make sure that your own place is represented. I really like that. And I think for me, another question I wanted to ask is the role of civil societies in ensuring that, institutions like INEC are transparent and accountable. You guys at Follow the Money have done a very, very good job of ensuring that, like you said, involving the citizens and all of that. I think my question is, how else or what other things can civil societies and institutions do to make sure that INEC stays transparent? We have a lot of civil societies in the country who say, oh, I'm working here, I'm doing this one here, I'm doing this one there. Is there a way for them to all collaborate in a way that they are able to mount pressure on institutions like INEC to ensure that there's transparency and there's accountability in our elections going forward?
All right. So first of all, I need you to understand one thing. Put together 7,000 plus civil society organization or NGO cannot do what maybe 100 communities. We have 774 local government in this country. We are over 2 million million people across Nigeria. Put together everything that the civil society organization can do will not do what if people decide to do what we do. And that is why we always encourage citizens, right? So for me, I will say civil society is doing what they can do, from building capacity of people, from, putting eye on what the INEC is doing. I mean, if you look at, there have been a lot of stakeholder engagement with civil society organization, with the media, with other citizens, as well as even organizing public hearings, right, by other civil society organizations to come. And then there are different levels of civil society doing different things during elections. Connected Development and Follow the Money is part of civil society situation room, where elections are being observed and reports are being released every now and then, right? We've got other different civil societies that are doing tabulating, looking at comparing the numbers on IREF and other numbers, like what Yaga is doing, what the TAF Africa is doing, and other civil society organization. And if you look at what TAF is doing, it's very instrumental. I'm a very big fan of what they do around looking at people living with disabilities, right? How their elections happen, as well as looking at that gender disparity and what have you. So the only thing we can say is, as civil society organization, we have to continue to do what we do so that people will now see the need to believe in the system. And when there is belief in the system, then definitely trust will come. And when trust is there, definitely confidence will come. And when confidence is there, then service will be provided and power will be back to the people.
Thank you so much. I love one key thing that you corrected me on, which is it doesn't matter the number of civil societies. If communities don't come up and believe and put that pressure on institutions like INEC, we might not move forward as much as we want to move forward. And I think that's going to lead me to this question that I want to ask you right now. You've worked closely with a generation of young Africans committed to transparency, reform, and you've even worked with communities as well. My question for you is, what do you believe that, the current generation that we have right now, the current generation of young people, communities, people, citizens, what do we have to do differently going forward before the next election in 2027 so that we can truly reshape Nigeria's governance landscape and completely believe that the power belongs to us as citizens?
First of all, I think we don't have to be like other people. There is that normal thing that, the other generation that had free food, free uniforms, free classes are the ones suffering us, right? I subscribe to that bit, but I think what we need to do differently is we need to act in two ways. We need to be deliberate and we need to be systematic. How are we deliberate? How are we systematic? Is we need to also do two things. We need to mobilize and we need to decentralize information. So when we are deliberate, we're systematic, we mobilize, we decentralize information, we work against misinformation, we work against disinformation, fake news, and what have you. One thing is being curved, right? And another thing is we need to also look at governance or political space. It's a thing for everybody. Democracy is all about question and answer, demand and supply. When all of us come together and believe that this is the thing, then that is being deliberate in acting, right? Some of us might have to join political parties. Some of us might have to contest election. Some of us might have to sit and observe election. Some of us might have to converse for people to vote for ideologies we have. Another problem that has been from that previous generation is in Nigeria, we don't have political ideology. Our political ideology is missing because, if you look at what is happening between that cross-cutting from PDP to APC or APC to PDP or to Labour Party, what we know internationally is politics is about ideology, politics is about ideas and what have you. But now what we have is someone can move from this party to this party and nothing happened. That's just the truth. His ideology does not shift. He's no longer valued here, he moved here. So we have to now institutionalize politics of ideology, politics of deliberateness, politics of systematic movement, and get to mobilize and then decentralize information so that we build capacities of people and other people will understand that we all need to come together as one, that the country, we own the country. And if we make change will really happen. And another thing that a lot of times we have issues with people is sometimes for us that are doing what we're doing, you will sit back if you see something happen. You will sit back and wonder, really, am I really making impact? Right? But, impacts might come in different ways, right? Successes might come in different ways. So that's just a thing we need to do. And Rafiatu, I need to be very honest with you. There are a lot of issues in this country. Sometimes when you hear the issues, you will want to cry. I'll give you an example. I had a conversation with someone in Kano while we are trying to do a lot of things around girls' child education in northwestern part of the country. And I was meant to understand that there's a thing or there's a law, let me just use it that way, that if a girl in one way or the other, she's in secondary school or primary school, happens to get married, right, she will be withdrawn from school, formal school, to move to women's center. Now, those women's centers, don't get me wrong, those women's centers, some of them are NACO registered centers, so they might get educated, do everything, and then move to tertiary institutions. I'm not cutting that. But why remove someone from formal education? The only reason is so that is the irony, right? That's the irony. So that the lady that is married not to come back and tell the girls that are not married the marital issues that happen in the house, so that she will not spoil them. But just so you know, same Kano has the highest number of people selling aphrodisiac, right? The word Kaya Mata, literally, you cannot watch any Hausa movie now with your in-laws or your mothers or something, because the next thing you hear is they're advertising aphrodisiac, right? We did not address that issue, but automatically look at what we're doing. Look at the kind of policy. So if people that have that mindset are still in the system, we don't enter the system. I promise you, the laws goes in form of, if a lady is in a boarding school, she happened to jump fence, which is not good, I know. If she's caught, automatically she will be banned from any boarding school. She has to be attending physical, normal, not boarding school. But boys can do that and nothing happens. You get it. So I can go on and tell you about some of these issues. Sometimes you feel like crying, right? But what do we have to do? The narrative are the things that we need to change. And that's why we're doing what we're doing. So to be honest, as a Nigerian, sometimes we need to positively get angry and make change deliberate.
I love how you ended it, like we have to positively get angry. I mean, some of the things you were saying, yeah, I don't even want to get into that. Like, yes, I don't want to get into that. And it is overwhelming sometimes, the issues in the country. But like we say, it starts from us. Like, you have to get involved one way or the other. And I love what you talked about, how change sometimes doesn't exactly look luxurious, or it's not from 0 to 100, but believe that things are happening in the background. And since this episode has been about elections, and I know some people wonder, well, why are we worried about INEC leadership and all of that? Is because that's where most of our issues happen. If we don't put the right people in power, we're not even able to get them to root for the right things. And look at some of the laws that you just spoke about now in Kano. Like, if we have people with that kind of mindset in power, only God knows when we are ever going to leave the trenches. But I want to ask this final question as we prepare, because everybody in the country now is beginning to prepare. 2025 is rounding up. We're already going to November. And 2026 is going to be campaign year, all of that. INEC is going to have their hands full with a lot of things. As we go into 2027 with the new leadership that we have now in INEC, for you and as a concerned citizen, as somebody who works with making sure that government is transparent, accountability, all of that you do with Follow the Money and Connected Development, what is the things that you're hoping that we get to see in 2027 elections?
Yeah, so I will still go back to what I said earlier. Our major issues are in three forms: institutional efficiency with INEC, transparency, citizen trust has been our major issue. Citizen trust, institutional efficiency, that is things that has to do with the logistical issues, right? And then the transparent form of election, where you as INEC boss explain to people before election that, example, you will get your result on IREF before it's been announced. And during the presidential election, results stopped coming on IREF and people raised questions, right? For me, there are people that are conversing for electoral reforms. I belong to that kind of people. Can we address the issue of institutional inefficiency? Institutional efficiency should be active, right? And can we also enhance the level of technology that we have? IREF, BVAS is something really good, right? Can we enhance it? And during the last election in Kenya, the election that brought in William Ruto as president, I belong to the people that went to observe election in Kenya. and we happened to travel with the former then chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmood. We were on the same flight from Abuja till Nairobi, and practically we stayed close together, and we were there. There are a lot of things that Kenya adopted from us, or we adopted from Kenya. The beavers, the IREF, everything they do that. They only call their own a different name. But on that, we need to adopt another thing from them. I always find it funny when courts give people their mandate. We need to really look into reforming our judicial system. I'll give you an example with that. In Imo, right, the person that is the third, there is first, there is second. The third person is the one governing the state during the previous election. What do you have to say? It's courts that gave the verdict. I don't know how that happens, right? But if you calculate the numbers we have of cancelled votes and what have you, you will see that the margin between the person that won election and the person that lost second, that margin is more than those numbers. So what am I saying? Can we adopt what Kenya is doing? Everything will happen. The election tribunal will happen before swearing in. Immediately swearing in happens, governance start. There is nothing like going to court or anything. Everything finishes before swearing in. I think we need to adopt that because, to be honest with you, it is very difficult for you to see someone in power goes down, right? And another thing is we need to also look at that point of, is also institutional efficiency. That point of INEC supervising state electoral bodies. We actively need to look at it because, see, the 5 cardinal principles of running governance has to do with credibility, legitimacy, accountability, service, and power. Without those things, I don't think we're moving any forward. Thank you very much.
I have to say, it has been an amazing, amazing time speaking to you. I have learned so much from you. I've been inspired by the things that you've said. I have been shocked by some of the things that you said, which have moved me to also definitely, be part of the system. And I'm very excited for anybody who would eventually get to listen to this episode because you really raise very important points that I think that a lot of us citizens should be thinking about now that we have a new leadership when it comes to INEC and as we move into the 2027 elections. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. It has been amazing having you on. I am so grateful that you were here with us. And I would say to everybody listening, it's not enough for you to listen on the news that the INEC leadership has changed. I know that it doesn't feel like it in Nigeria, but power still belongs to the people. I hear it all the time and it's the truth. The highest office is the office of the citizen. You have to actively be involved. You heard what Mukhtar said earlier. 7,000 civil societies can do all that they can. But if communities don't rise up and support and actively be involved, there's really no active change that we can get. And so as long as you have not gone anywhere and you're in this country, we actively need things to change. And I hope that you can take that decision today to be a part of the system, to demand for more, demand for transparency, and demand for accountability. Thank you again for being on the episode, Mukhtar. It has been amazing having you on. Listen now to I Am Change podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.